Hello, in this Cocos2d-x video, we're going to look at how to detect rect collision. So rects are these little squares, or rectangles more specifically, that's what rect stands for, around your sprite. And they are the same size as the image size, for example. So if you had an image that was 400 by 200 pixels, and you only had, let's say, 100 by 100 pixels of it filled in with some sort of color and the rest of it was alpha, the rect would be around the image in terms of size, not the actual content inside it. So for certain scenarios, rect collision may not be suitable for something that you want really pixel perfect collision, but for general collision, rect collision is fantastic. I've got a little project already set up. I'll just show you what it does. It has two different sprites, and when I click and move, it moves the sprite on the right. So we want to detect when this sprite collides with this one right here, and to do that it's really simple. On the on-touch moved, though I'm using touch actions and I'm putting the on-touch moved, you could put this code in an update method, you could put it in another function call, you can put it wherever you want. First of all, you need to do rect. Basically get the rect for each of the sprites. So equals sprite 1. You could do it with objects that aren't sprites as well, but I'm just using sprites. Get bounding box. You might have heard of that term as well, bounding box. Essentially the same thing. Rect 2. Get bounding box from sprite 2. And now we simply do an if statement saying rect1 dot intersects rect. So if you want to make it intersect a circle, you can do that as well, because that's going to be slightly different due to obviously it not covering, let's say, an entire square. But we're just going to deal with rect, and I'm going to put the other rect. Was there something? Yeah, that's all it required. Rect 2 square brackets, curly braces, and that's it. In here we will just handle it accordingly. We're just going to do a simple log. You might be wondering, in what order do these really need to be in? Reality, there's no particular order. You could say, does rect 2 intersect with rect 1? Because at the end of the day, if one intersects with the other, by definition the other one is intersecting with the first one as well. So what we're going to do is put log collided, then I'm going to do else log not collided, and that's it. We're actually ready to run this now. So if we just run our application, when we start moving our sprite, it's going to constantly either print out collided or not collided depending on where our sprite is. So as you can see, it says not collided because at the moment I'm getting very close but not touching it. Still very close, but look, I'm now touching it. It says collided, not collided, and if I just get the corners to touch, as you can see, it still says collided. And obviously if we're over the top, it's colliding as well. You might be thinking, what about scaling? It works well with scaling. If I scale the first sprite, so set scale, I'm going to put it to 0.1. Run this now. You don't need to update the rects or anything like that. It handles all that for you. Usually if I were to move this and put it here, it would be colliding with the sprite, but because it's scaled, it doesn't come up as colliding. But if I actually make it touch, as you can see, it's saying collided, and that's fantastic. So we don't need to do anything else when we start scaling our sprite. I just want to show you something. I'm just going to change this to close normal.png, get rid of the scale. This is a circular item, so there's some alpha on there. So I want to show you how he handles that. Described it at the start of this video, but just showing you what would be better. That's a little too small. So let's scale it, but the other way. Let's make it, I think 5 times bigger should be enough, but it might be too big. Yeah, that's fine, that's great. So we're going to start moving this around. As you see, it says not collided. If we hover over it, it says collided. But watch what happens when I go towards the corners. You might be thinking it's not colliding, but it's colliding with the image, and that's what's important. Alpha of an image still detects it as collision. If you want something a bit more complex than that, you're probably best if you use the physics bodies, aka using the physics system in Cocos2d-x, or use something like Box2D. But just for basic stuff, Rect collision is fantastic. You can also use Rect collision to detect if the user has, let's say, touched a particular item. So what I'm going to do is actually disable the untouched move method, like so. Disable this code, so we're not actually moving that sprite anymore. We are going to do rect1 equals sprite1 get bounding box, and this is the bounding box of the sprite that we are interacting with. Now we do point. We don't intersect with another rect, but we intersect with a point. I'm just going to call this touch point equals touch get location. So this is the x and y the x and y coordinates of our touch. And if I do if, actually, you know what, I can just copy and paste this and just modify this accordingly. So if I copy this to here, I need to change this to point. I need to change intersects rect to contains point. So this basically checks, does this rect contain this point? In this scenario, it does matter which one you put outside, aka you want to put the rect outside because you're checking, does this particular point go inside this particular rect? And for this, I'm just going to put touched and not touched. That looks a-okay to me. So yeah, we're ready to run this. But before we do that, I'm actually just going to change this sprite back so it's just a rectangular one. But it doesn't really matter if it's got alpha. It's just going to be easier to illustrate this with a solid image. Okay, I forgot that I scaled it. Let's just comment that out. Come on. Here we go. Okay, so if I, let's say, click here, it's still moving it. Oh yeah, because I've got it on the ended method here. Forgot all about that. That was still active. Now should be working. Okay, so if I click here, it says not touched. I click this sprite, it says not touched because we're dealing with the first sprite. And if I go quite close to it, that's pretty close. Go a little closer, but there's a gap. It says not touched. But if I click, it says touch, not touched. And if I click, let's say in the corner, it says touched. So that's a great way of using Rect collision to detect when you're interacting with an item. That's it for Rect collision. If you have any questions, feel free to post them on our education platform, sonarlearning.co.uk/questions.php. There'll be a link in the description, plus there'll be another link in the description to the source code from this video. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button and leave us a comment. And as usual, thank you for watching and I hope you have a great day.